Hi everyone, I'm Robert Moody. I'm the music director of the Portland Symphony Orchestra, and thanks for checking into this special online insight that actually has come about in a sort of impromptu way. Today is March 19th, and today is the day that we are announcing more details of the 2013-2014 Portland Symphony Orchestra Classics and Pop seasons. We were supposed to be at the library downtown, and many of you had registered to come and be with me live while we talked about the season. But Mother Nature got involved, and we've had, as I'm sure you know, a pretty significant snowstorm. You can see out the window of my house. So we've decided to do this in a more cozy location since we were not able to use the library today, and go ahead and bring you the information anyway. So thanks for tuning in, and I certainly encourage you to tell folks to check out the website and look at this video so that we can spread the word about the great concerts coming up next season. So our classic series, which really can be broken down into two distinct series. You have an option to purchase for subscription tickets, a Tuesday classical series. Those concerts are on Tuesdays at 7:30, or a Sunday classical series. Those concerts are on Sundays at 2:30. Some of the concerts are doubled, so we do the same performance both on a Sunday and then 2 days later, but most of them are unique concerts. So make sure to check out the specifics of our ticket offerings for the concert series that best works for you. But I'm so excited about the classics concerts we have coming up on both the Tuesday and Sunday performances. The opening cycle will be one of those doubles. You will have the opportunity to see the same performance on either Sunday or Tuesday for our kickoff weekend of the Portland Symphony Orchestra. This is going to be a concert of great fanfare. We open, in fact, with a fanfare. Paul Dukas, the great French composer, this is his fanfare from La Péri. It is written for only brass, and so the entire brass section of our orchestra will be featured. And we decided to do something a little bit different to kick off this fanfare. Instead of having the brass sitting at the back of the stage where you would normally see them sort of behind the woodwinds, behind the strings, they actually will all be standing right across the front of the stage. So in a very herald fanfare way, we do indeed kick off the season. So that's the first piece in the concert. After that, we do the Beethoven Fourth Piano Concerto. Beethoven wrote 5 incredible concertos. We do the fourth concerto with Orly Shaham, truly one of the greatest pianists playing today. We have a lot of family dynasty happening this coming year. A lot of people who are coming are incredible artists in their own right and also part of a great artistic family. Orly Shaham is one of those. Her brother is the great violinist Gil Shaham. So we're very excited to have Orly with us. For the second half of that concert, we'll be doing one of the greatest symphonies written in the 20th century for orchestra, Sergei Prokofiev's Fifth Symphony, one of my truly favorite works and one of the symphonies that I personally have conducted the very most in my career. So if you know that piece, if you know the Beethoven, you understand the idea about the brass fanfare, you can see that we are kicking off the season with a bang. Soon after that, we have our second Tuesday classical performance, and this performance features again, one of my favorite artists and a dear friend of mine, Jennifer Coe, an incredible violinist. Jenny Coe has opened the season this past year for the New York Philharmonic. She is well in demand throughout Europe, Asia, and the United States. This incredible player is joining us to play the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto, perhaps the most well-known of all the violin concertos. That's going to be in the second half of the concert. First half of the concert is going to feature what I think will be one of the most powerful juxtapositions we're going to offer to you, the audience, in the entire year. Really a study in darkness and light, a study in the moral questions surrounding technology that has created the ability for destruction and the simplicity of love and sharing. The first piece we're going to perform in the concert is John Adams' Dr. Atomic Symphony. A few years ago, John Adams, the great American composer, wrote the opera Dr. Atomic, and this is the story of the historical period just lasting for a very few months between the surrender of Germany at the end of the Second World War and before the surrender of Japan. And at this moment, in these very few months, the pressure was on Dr. Oppenheimer and his team at Los Alamos to complete the creation of the H-bomb. So this was the great moral dilemma of that moment, and really one of the great moral dilemmas of human history. It was so well represented in the opera, and the music was so powerful that John Adams reworked the music from the opera as a symphonic tone poem. So this is the Dr. Atomic Symphony, which relays that feeling, that poignancy, and that struggle. Right after that, we do Aaron Copland's suite from the Tenderland, a very different opera. And in the Tenderland, the final words connected to the finale, called The Promise of Living, speak of the promise of living being sharing and caring for our neighbors. I'm really interested in this juxtaposition that we're putting together. I think it's going to be one of the most powerful concerts of the season, so I encourage you to make sure you check out that concert. Our November Sunday classical concert is a concert that features one of the most wonderful Bach choral works and some incredible Baroque orchestral works. This concert will feature Bach's Cantata 140, Wachet auf, ruft uns die Stimme, in English, Sleepers Wake. This is an incredible cantata of Bach's, one of the great choral works, featuring perhaps one of his most beloved and well-known melodies. You'll hear this in the middle portion of that cantata. This is going to feature members of the Choral Arts Society, directed by Dr. Robert Russell. And in the first half of the concert, we'll have some great Baroque gems for orchestra, beginning with a suite, the Ancient Airs and Dances Suite No. 1 by Ottorino Respighi. Yes, Respighi is not a Baroque composer. He is of the 20th century, but in this work, he's hearkening back and using works from the late Renaissance and early Baroque as a basis for this incredible suite. After that, we're doing a really wonderful piece called Battaglia, and I encourage you to maybe Google this work a little bit. You'll see some great performances. This is a Baroque work that actually asks string players to play in a very 20th century way at times, to do things to the instrument that seem very modern, and yet as you hear it, you'll see it's really a powerful Baroque work. Finally, before intermission and before the Bach cantata in the second half, the orchestra is going to play Arcangelo Corelli's Concerto Grosso Opus 6, number 8, much more well known as the Christmas Concerto. If you came to the Magic of Christmas this past year, you actually heard the orchestra play the finale of the Christmas Concerto as an underpinning to Bill Green's wonderful reading of the Christmas story from the Bible. In this concert, you hear the entire work of Corelli, one of the most beautiful Baroque works, featuring 3 soloists within the orchestra, 2 violins, 1 cello, and then the rest of the orchestra as Ripieni, commenting back and forth with the soloist. It's going to be a great concert. The next Sunday classical concert happens in January. This concert will have a guest conductor, and I'm very excited about the guest conductor who's joining us. His name is Ken David Mazur. Earlier, as we were talking, I mentioned that this is in some ways a year of musical dynasties. Orly Shaham, sister of Gil Shaham. In this case, Ken David Mazur is the son of the great conductor Kurt Mazur, who for many years was music director of the New York Philharmonic. Ken Mazur will be conducting Mozart's Symphony 41, known as the Jupiter Symphony, the final symphony written by Mozart, written in the last year of his very short life, and really the most perfect of the Mozart symphonies. The finale of 41 is one of the most brilliantly orchestrated works in all of orchestral music. Also in that concert, a great friend of mine, and I say absolutely the greatest living clarinetist, is going to be with us. His name is Ricardo Morales. Ricardo Morales is currently principal clarinetist of the Philadelphia Orchestra. Prior to that, he was principal clarinetist of the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra. He was offered the position of principal clarinet in the New York Philharmonic. He has been sought after by the Berlin Philharmonic and really every major orchestra in the world. He is a phenomenal player and a tremendous human being. I really am excited for the audience and the community to meet and get to know, and most importantly hear, Ricardo Morales. He's going to be playing the Aaron Copland Clarinet Concerto. You may know that this concerto was written for Benny Goodman, and hence you will hear a lot of great jazz influence on this concerto. But it is a technical tour de force work for the clarinet, and that work, along with the Mozart Jupiter Symphony, and we're going to let Ken David Mazur, the conductor, pick one more piece, which we'll announce at a later date, which to open the concert. So that's going to be a really wonderful Sunday Classical in January. We have had great success featuring our own stellar musicians of the Portland Symphony Orchestra as soloists, and you have responded to that so very well, and we thank you for that. We're going to do that again this year at the Tuesday, February Classics concert. We are featuring Lisa Hennessy. Lisa is our principal flutist of the orchestra, phenomenal player, well sought after throughout New England, plays in many of the great ensembles in Boston, and we're so happy to have Lisa as our principal flute player. She's going to play the Kachaturian Flute Concerto. Yes, I sort of halted for a moment when I said the word flute, because actually the Kachaturian Concerto was written originally for violin. But Jean-Pierre Rampal, the great flutist, reworked this piece to be a flute concerto. It's a wonderful work, and I'm so excited that Lisa picked it. So in order to celebrate the flute, we have the flute concerto. We're going to kick off the concert with Mozart's overture to the Magic Flute, which is such a great overture, a real gem of Mozart's. And in the second half of the concert, we play Dvorak's Symphony No. 8. Such a powerful symphony. So this is a great chance to really highlight our orchestra in the symphonic work and highlight one star player in our orchestra, Lisa Hennessy, as she plays the Kachaturian Flute Concerto. March will be the other month, other than October, when we do a double. That is to say, we will have the same performance on Sunday and Tuesday. The reason is this concert is so powerful. There's no way I wanted to have either audience, our Sunday classical audience or Tuesday classical audience, miss this experience. I've mentioned Dynasties a few times. This is one of the great ones on our season next year. The daughter of Leonard Bernstein, the eldest daughter, Jamie Bernstein, is going to be with us as we pay tribute to her father, the greatest musician of the 20th century, I think, in so many ways. Leonard Bernstein, for his compositional output as a conductor, as a pianist, as an educator, I would dare say no one had more influence on music than Leonard Bernstein. We're going to focus on Lenny's sacred side. We know the Bernstein of West Side Story and Candide, but he wrote some very powerful, serious works, and often works connected to faith. We open this concert with the Third Symphony of Bernstein. Its nickname is the Kaddish Symphony. Kaddish to the Jewish faith is as requiem to the Catholic faith. It's a prayer service for the dead. This work is huge, calls for a very large orchestra, chorus, children's chorus, soprano soloist, and narrator. Jamie Bernstein, daughter of Leonard Bernstein, will be the narrator. Very important work in Leonard Bernstein's life, as it becomes a bit of an argument between Bernstein and Jehovah about the nature of mankind and what's happening on the earth and how that's contrary to the teachings of God. And this is actually very much in that faith practice to have this argument. Then there needs to be a resolution from the argument. So after intermission, the chorus will perform with the orchestra Bernstein's Chichester Psalms. For chorus, boy soprano solo, and orchestra. This is a setting of several psalms, a beautiful setting of the 23rd Psalm heard by the voice of a boy soprano. The final psalm is how good and pleasant it is for brethren and sistren to dwell together in unity. So we move from the argument of Kaddish to some resolution with these settings of the Psalms. And finally, our soprano soloist, who was with us for the Kaddish, will finish the concert by singing one number from the Bernstein Mass. This number is called Simple Song. You may know it. If you don't, I encourage you to look it up. It's really powerful in its simplicity. It says, "Sing God a simple song, for God is the simplest of all." We move from a stage full orchestra, chorus, children's chorus, narrator, soloist, through that piece, through Chichester Psalms, down to one voice singing this simple song. It will be, I think, one of those concerts that people are talking about for weeks and weeks after the concert event. I really encourage you to join us on that journey. The April Sunday Classical Concert is a wonderful concert featuring really some of the great traditional and beloved works for orchestra. So coming off of a powerful experience with the music of Bernstein, now we move to something more traditional. We have three great works. First by Dvorak, My Home Overture. This is one of his great short tone poems, really, that he wrote about his homeland, the Czech Republic. We then have perhaps the most famous work for piano, Rachmaninoff's Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. Here's the popular reference and connection to that work. The 18th variation, which is the most well-known variation of this Rhapsody, is the theme used in the 1970s hit movie Somewhere in Time, featuring Jane Seymour and Christopher Reeve. So you might want to give that movie a look before coming to this concert. And then finally we end the concert with one of the greatest symphonies we have in the repertory, Brahms' Symphony No. 3. Johannes Brahms wrote only 4 symphonies. Each of the 4 is a full masterpiece, and I'm excited to do the 3rd symphony for the first time with me and the orchestra. The Tuesday classical performance that we are offering in May has an Italian-Spanish twist to it. And also, one of the works came to me because of my chance to visit another great orchestra in the area. Last summer, I went to see the Boston Symphony Orchestra perform at Tanglewood. It was great, by the way, to see the orchestra on stage at Tanglewood, and there in the Boston Symphony Orchestra playing that day were 4 members of our Portland Symphony Orchestra. It's fantastic. So if you get a chance to go down to Boston and see the symphony, take a look, and I wager you will see some of our players joining the BSO. On this day in Tanglewood last summer, they premiered a new work by Gandolfi. It is called Night Train to Perugia. I thought the work was fascinating and fantastic, and immediately looked for the score and programmed it for us. So we're kicking off the concert with this wonderful new work, Night Train to Perugia, and then we move from Italy to Spain. After that, we perform Rimsky-Korsakov's Capriccio Espagnol. Rimsky-Korsakov, the great Russian composer, but he gave us one of the most wonderful Spanish works that we have in the repertory. After Capriccio Espagnol, I will tell you that we have a surprise for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we have a great surprise piece that will be on the concert before intermission. Then after intermission comes Richard Strauss's tone poem Don Quixote. This will be my first time to conduct Don Quixote, and I am so enjoying burying myself in the score and really getting to know this work. It is both a great Strauss tone poem and in many ways a cello concerto. You really must engage a solo cellist as you do for the great cello works, and we've done that. In this case, we are bringing back a cellist who was immensely successful here, Zool Bailey. Zool played with me with the Portland Symphony Orchestra in my 2nd season. He's a dear friend. He's one of the greatest cellists playing today, and we're so excited that he was able to come back and join us on this great work, Don Quixote. So our final Tuesday Classics of the season, our final concert of the season, happens this year in June. I think that's a perfect time for a concert, and I hope to see you there. We're going to have not an Italian and Spanish moment, as we did in the May Tuesday Classics. In this case, we're having an American and French moment. We have a great American composer, 2 great French composers, and an incredible French pianist who's joining us. We start off with George Gershwin's An American in Paris. What a perfect way to have this concert, which begins with Gershwin and ends with Ravel, Maurice Ravel. Maurice Ravel and George Gershwin knew each other. In fact, in 1928, George Gershwin, who was becoming a jazz legend already here in the United States, made a trip to Paris. There he met with several great composers, Maurice Ravel chief among them. He actually asked Ravel if he could study with Ravel, and Ravel famously said to Gershwin, "Why do you want to be a second-rate Ravel when you are such a first-rate Gershwin?" It was great to see that there was such mutual admiration between those 2 composers, and as you listen to them, I think you will hear certainly French influence in this work of Gershwin, The American in Paris, and absolutely jazz influence in the works of Maurice Ravel. We begin with American in Paris. We end with two works by Ravel. First, his wonderful Le Tambour de Couperin, and finally, La Valse. And a wonderful way to bookend the concert, and right in the middle, between the works of Gershwin and Ravel, we have the great French Romantic composer Camille Saint-Saëns. Saint-Saëns, the composer who gave us the Organ Symphony and the Carnival of the Animals. In this case, we're playing his Piano Concerto No. 5. It has an interesting nickname, the Egyptian Concerto, and to be sure, you hear some Egyptian influences at times. Mostly, you're aware of the incredible virtuosity and the incredible technical pianistic ability required to play this piece. I dare say only a handful of players can even perform the piece, and we have one of the great ones. Pascal Roger, great French pianist, known specifically for this piece, is coming to join us. So a wonderful American-French, American in Paris moment to end our season, to kick us off into spring on a day that will be very different than the snowy day we have today. Our pop series in 2013-2014 is going to be tremendous. We are so excited about the 4 concerts we have. I'll tell you a bit about each of the 4 of them and hope that this will whet your appetite to buy tickets for all 4 and tell your friends about them as well. We open the pop season with music of Cole Porter and George Gershwin. Mike Eldred will be joining us. You may have seen Mike Eldred last year in one of our Pops concerts. He is a bona fide Broadway star. Mike starred as Jean Valjean on Broadway in Les Miserables. If you've seen the movie recently, this is a good time, I think, to recall that incredible voice. Mike Eldred will be with us. Also, we are bringing in a Broadway female vocalist to be announced, and the 2 of them, along with me and the orchestra, will perform the greatest works of the American Songbook as penned by George Gershwin and Cole Porter. The second Pops concert moves us into a different kind of American music, a different kind of jazz. The Brubeck Brothers Quartet are going to be with us. Chris Brubeck is the eldest son of Dave Brubeck, the legendary jazz composer pianist who just passed away this past December. I mentioned talking about classical concerts. We have dynasties this year, this coming up, and the Brubeck dynasty is perhaps the greatest dynasty in all of jazz. The Brubeck brothers, Chris, his brother Dan, and other members of the quartet will be in town. They'll be with the orchestra performing some of their own works, some great works that Chris Brubeck has composed, and of course, Take 5, Unsquare Dance, Blue Rondo a la Turk, the greatest music of Dave Brubeck. If you're a Brubeck fan, this is a concert not to miss. The third Pops concert we are doing is one I'm very excited about. It's a new kind of concert that we're actually doing with the symphony, something quite unique. You are going to be able to experience the live full symphony orchestra accompanying silent film. This is something we haven't done before, and I think it's going to be a great experience for the family to bring kids and grandkids to. In this case, the film is the great 1920s film featuring Douglas Fairbanks, The Mark of Zorro. And as you see this silent film on large screen above the orchestra, you will hear live music supporting this. This is one of those experiences that you rarely have the chance to have in our day and time. So make sure you don't miss this great Pops concert. And then finally, we end the Pops concert series with a concert that you, the audience, have been clamoring for a number of years. We have had this group before. We are so excited to bring them back. Classical Mystery Tour. This is a salute to the Beatles. So get out your best 1960s garb. Bring them. We will put on our best 60s clothing as well and salute the most important band of the 20th century, the band that really changed rock and roll more than any other. So if you are a fan of John, Paul, George, and Ringo, this is your concert, and tickets will go fast, so we look forward to seeing you there. So there you have it, everyone, our Classics series and our Pop series for 2013-2014. There's more to come. There is great information that we'll be telling you about in the coming months regarding the magic of Christmas, regarding our wonderful Discovery series, our new concert series for kids, and many more great things to tell you. But I hope this gets you started on your journey to getting tickets to be with us so that we can enjoy the live musical journey together. Enjoy your day in the snow and join us again at as many concerts as you can. Thanks so much, everyone.